There are monsters in Greek myth that terrify because they are large, and there are monsters that terrify because they mean something. The Hydra belongs to the second kind. Because the Hydra of Lerna is not just a beast with many heads, it is a nightmare of recurrence, a thing that does not stay solved, a threat that answers violence by multiplying. And that is why the story endures. In the ancient sources, the Hydra is tied to Lerna, a marshy region near Argos, a place of springs, wet ground, and old religious memory. The creature is described as a devastating serpent-like monster haunting that landscape. In one major tradition, she is the offspring of Typhon and Echidna, that fearsome pair who generate some of Greek myth's most terrifying beings. And Hesiod says that Hera herself nourished the Hydra, raising her in hatred of Heracles. That detail matters, because from the beginning, the Hydra is not just a wild animal. She belongs to a world of divine hostility. She is not random. She is part of the pressure placed upon Heracles. To understand why, we have to step back. Heracles does not perform his famous labors as a free champion choosing glorious adventures. He performs them under compulsion. After the madness sent upon him and the catastrophe that followed, he must submit himself to Eurystheus, king of Mycenae, and carry out the tasks that will become the 12 labors. The Hydra is the second of them. In Apollodorus, the Hydra has 9 heads, 8 mortal and 1, the central head, immortal. Other traditions vary on the number, which is common in myth, but the essential feature stays the same. She is many-headed, difficult to master, and resistant to ordinary killing. Heracles finds her, draws her out, and attacks. But this is not a clean duel. This is mud, venom, recoil, a body built for entanglement. A monster whose threat does not come from one mouth only, but from many. And then the nightmare reveals itself. He cuts off one head, and more come back. In the most famous version, for every head cut away, 2 more grow in its place. The battle becomes a trap. Every ordinary success worsens the problem. So the battle changes. Heracles is not alone at Lerna. With him is Iolaus, his kinsman and companion. In Apollodorus's version, Iolaus becomes decisive. Once Heracles realizes that cutting alone will never end the fight, Iolaus takes a burning brand and cauterizes the neck stumps each time a head is severed. Fire closes what steel opens. The multiplication stops. Strategy enters where raw assault had failed. That Eurystheus later refuses to count the Hydra labor as fully valid precisely because Heracles had assistance from Iolaus. The mortal heads can now be dealt with. Cut, burn, stop the regrowth. Again and again, until only the final head remains, the immortal one. That detail is crucial, because the myth does not allow total annihilation in the simple sense. Apollodorus says Heracles cuts off the immortal head and then buries it under a heavy rock beside the road from Lerna to Iolaus. Not destroyed, contained. Not erased, pinned down. That is a very Greek solution. Sometimes chaos is slain. Sometimes it is driven back. Sometimes it is trapped under weight. Then comes one of the darkest turns in the labor. After the Hydra is subdued, Heracles dips his arrows in her poisonous blood. This gives him a terrible advantage in later myths because the Hydra's venom becomes portable death. The monster does not end when the battle ends. She continues inside the hero's weapons, extending her reach into future stories, and eventually into the chain of events surrounding Heracles' own death. So, the labor is won, but the victory is contaminated. Heracles leaves Lerna stronger in one sense, more effective, more dangerous, more prepared. But he also leaves carrying the Hydra forward. The hero kills the beast, yet takes part of the beast with him. And that is why the Hydra is more than a monster story. Because if you strip away the scales and marsh water and divine hostility, what remains is one of the oldest patterns in human thought. The fear of a problem that grows when handled badly. That is the Hydra's lasting power. And yet the myth never becomes abstract. It remains concrete. a marsh, a den by the springs, the reek of a wet monster rising, a hero striking, heads falling, heads returning, fire at the wound, underfoot, a final immortal core buried beneath stone. That concreteness is why the story survives. You can see it, and because you can see it, you can feel what it means. Sometimes the real battle begins when the first head falls.